Hi, everyone. Welcome to So What? I hope those of you who have been buried in snow and bitter cold are finding some sunshine today and, you know, digging out from where you have been. Um, it's been brutal. So I am happy to report that we have some sunshine around here. I'm still in my heated blanket though. But we're seeing a little hint of spring upon us. So I hope all of you are too. Today is the last So What of February, which means it is our um, sort of pinnacle of celebrating National Embroidery Month. So I'm really focusing on machine embroidery today, techniques, a lot of beginner basics. So if you are new to machine embroidery or if you have wanted to dive into machine embroidery, please drop me your questions in the comments and we will address anything that you really want to talk about today regarding machine embroidery. I have some exciting new products to share with you. And, next week we will be starting National Quilting Month and all the fun that that entails. So let's really focus on our embroidery endeavors. We can also discuss hand embroidery if you prefer to do embellishments by hand. Sulky is really your go-to guide for any of those types of embellishments. So let me know if you have questions to start us off today. And I will be talking about lots of stuff. So I appreciate all of you saying hello. Hi, everyone is from so many different places: Texas, Massachusetts, Florida, Iowa, Mississippi. Oh my gosh, we're from all over the place. I love it so much. I really enjoy this time where we can all come together and have a chat and, break up the monotony of our day and talk about some crafting and get inspired. So, without further ado, I want to start by talking about our new machine embroidery video series. This is accessible on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. If you have not checked out the Sulky YouTube channel, there are a lot of videos there for you to watch and learn and be inspired by. Most recently, for this National Embroidery Month, we launched a beginner machine embroidery video series. These are really short videos. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I really don't need, an hour-long tutorial on machine embroidery basics because I'm more of a middle of the roader or I'm more of an expert, you might still want to check these videos out because they're anywhere from about 4 minutes to 6 minutes or so. And each video is really focused on one part of the machine embroidery process. So you can really focus on needles or really focus on thread types or really focus on hooping. If you need a refresher or if you want to understand some terminology that maybe you have forgotten or need to just familiarize yourself with, these videos are a great resource for that. And you don't have to spend all afternoon watching the tutorial. It's just a quick kind of overview, but it also does a bit of a deep dive. I know. How did we manage that? Lots of planning. But anyways, I'm going to share one of the videos with you right now so that you can watch it in its entirety. It's only about 5 minutes long, and it really talks about pairing needles with thread because here's the deal. When we're doing machine embroidery, yes, the machine does a lot of the work for you. That's why I love machine embroidery, because once you understand the sort of recipe of fabric, stabilizer, thread, and needle that you need for a particular project, you get it hooped and you press start. And the machine magically creates this beautiful design. Now, of course, having high quality supplies is really going to help your stitch out be as beautiful as it can be. And yes, there is some skill involved as far as perfect placement and hooping so that you don't have stretching and puckering. There are still some things that require your skill and attention. But for the most part, the machine is making this beautiful artwork for you. And, you could do a lot of assembly line gift making, a lot of just beautiful embellishments that would take you forever if you were doing it by hand, right? So we love, love, love machine embroidery. All right. So actually, before I play the video, I do want to tell you about our brand new product here. Now, it's a bundle of Sulky products that are perfect if you're going to start your venture into the craft of machine embroidery. Like I said, if you already do machine embroidery and you're more of a middle of the road person or an expert, this is also a great little bundle to replenish your stash. If you are really hooked on always using Tear Easy for your stitch outs, or you always use Poly Deco, you might want to grab this kit as well because it comes with a stabilizer sampler pack. I'm going to talk a lot about this and how handy this is to have as a reference tool on its own. It also comes with a 1-yard pack of Tear Easy stabilizer and a 1-yard pack of Sulky Soft and Sheer Extra. This way you have a tearaway stabilizer that is pretty lightweight and a fusible cutaway stabilizer that also is suitable for an interfacing. So not only can you use it to stabilize your fabric for embroidery, but you can leave the entire sheet on your project and it acts as additional interfacing or stabilizer over time. So if you're embroidering, let's say, a pocket onto something, you would want the additional interfacing or stabilizer to stay with that pocket throughout the garment construction. So it kind of does twofold. So we included these two stabilizers in addition to the sampler pack so that you'd have the sampler pack to kind of practice on and to understand the whole line of Sulky stabilizers. And then you'll have two of the most popular stabilizers to go and do some projects right away. Also included is a 6-pack of Sulky rayon thread in the colors that are the most popular colors. You get your reds, your greens, your golds, your silvers, your black, your white. Also, you will get a spool of Sulky bobbin thread. Bobbin thread is 60 weight. It's lighter weight than the 40 weight rayon thread that you would put on top. And by marrying those two for your stitch out, you will ensure a nice balanced stitch out where your top thread is slightly showing on the underside of your embroidery. Some people say that your thread should actually be showing about 50-50 on the wrong side. So when you turn it over, you're seeing half of that top thread and half of that bobbin thread. I feel like, yes, that looks like a very balanced stitch out, but if you also have about a third of the top thread showing on the wrong side, that also to me looks like a very balanced, good stitch out from the right side. So at any rate, you want some of your top thread showing on the bottom side. So you need to be mindful of the bobbin thread that you are choosing. And I'm going to go over that and give you some options as well for bobbin thread. You could certainly also use the same thread you're using in the needle as you do in the bobbin, especially for something like a towel where you're going to see the wrong side when the item is displayed. You want that to be just as pretty as the right side. So you would choose the same thread in the bobbin as you're using for the needle. So with this kit, you're getting these 6 great thread colors and that bobbin thread. You also get a pack of embroidery needles, an assortment pack. So you have small needles and you also have the larger size needles, depending on the thread weight that you're choosing. And actually the video that I'm going to show you from the Beginner Machine Embroidery series talks about different needles, different types of needles, and how the label of the needle can be slightly confusing and not always what you want to go by when you are doing an embroidery project. So I picked that video to show you today out of all of the 6 videos in the series because During So What, we talk so much about needle size and thread size. I get so many questions about how do I figure out what needle I need for this project and for this thread. So I thought it would be good to show you that overview. And while it's playing, you can drop me your questions in the comments and we will address more needle and thread questions, comments, that type of thing. You can let me know what needles you like to use for machine embroidery, but most importantly for the thread that you choose for machine embroidery. So at any rate, this is also our giveaway today. So for one lucky viewer who is watching today, liking the Sulky page, liking the post, engaging with the post, bringing me your questions and comments, all that good stuff, sharing away, you all are eligible for the giveaway today, which is this beginner machine embroidery kit. So it's valued at $39.99. And that's such a great value because, you know, the thread alone can be upwards of $25 for 6 spools, depending on what it is. And if it's bundled or sold separately. So all of these things you're getting for only $39.99. So definitely grab this up. I'm going to go over the importance of all of these items when I come back from showing you this video. So hang on, and I'll get it going here. Before I start the video on needles, though, I'll show you our little intro video so you can get kind of an overview on the beginner machine embroidery series. So here we go. Machine embroidery is a fun sewing technique that allows you to personalize ready-made and custom sewing projects. It's a simple embellishment to learn once you understand the fundamentals because the machine does most of the work for you. Let's dive into the world of machine embroidery to see just how simple it can be. Hi everyone, I hope you come on over to this new post where I am now live with So What. I honestly have no idea what happened and why the feed just ended, so I apologize for that. We were right in the middle of showing off our beginner machine embroidery series, and all of a sudden my entire screen went black. So I hope you all can head on over to the new feed. I'm seeing 1 thumbs up, so someone's with me out there. Oh, goodness. Yes, we're back. Yay. All right. It finished the video and cut off. I know. I apologize, everyone. I'm glad you're coming on over. It definitely was something with my computer. So we're back. We're live. It is So What? It is Tuesday. And I didn't go anywhere. Everything is fine. I will show the other video, though, once I kind of double check my settings and make sure that that doesn't happen again, because that was really strange. Okay, so we were just in the middle or in the end of watching a little intro to our beginner machine embroidery series that is on our YouTube channel. And like I was saying, the videos are very short, easily watchable snippets of all the different components you need to know to do successful machine embroidery, whether that is for the first time or for the millionth time. I was watching the comments come through while the video was playing, and a lot of you were saying, I'm not a beginner, I've been doing this forever, but I can always learn something new. I feel the exact same way. It's kind of like mastering a musical instrument, you know? You never really get to the end. And that's why we all love this craft so much, because there's always something to learn. There's always a new trick or technique or something fun to make or a new inspiration. And it just keeps fueling that fire within us. And that's why crafting, sewing, quilting, it's all just so fulfilling, because we never really get to the end where we say, I know it all and I'm done, right? All right, so let's try again with another video. I'm just going to play for you the video on needle know-how, because like I said in the previous video, for those of you who missed that and are joining us now for the first time on the new feed, for those of you who missed that, needles and thread, and which needles to choose, where and when, and for what. Those are the most commonly asked questions that I get here on Sew What and at Sulky. So I wanted to play that video for you. While it's playing, I will make sure that the feed doesn't stop abruptly. While it's playing, shoot me your questions and comments, because I am not able to see the ones that were in the previous video now that we had to start over. So bring me those questions and comments again. For all of you commenting, liking, sharing, asking questions, all of that good stuff, you are eligible for the gift. I'm not sure if it cut off before I said this. I think it was after the video, but at any rate, this is our beginner machine embroidery kit. And it includes all of these great things. It is valued at $39.99. I'm going to go over some of these things after the video plays, but I wanted to let you know this is the giftie today for all of you liking, sharing, and commenting. We will pick one lucky winner to win that great prize. All right, so let's go ahead and try this again. I will play the video on needle know-how, and I will be monitoring the chat, so when we come back, I can answer further questions about what was in the video or questions you have regarding needles and thread. Here we go.
There are different types of sewing machine needles on the market based on the technique and fabric that you're using. And within those types are different sizes based on the thread weight you're using. Some needles are also color-coded to make it easy to identify the needle when it's out of the packaging. The universal needle is the most deceiving. It's not actually universal. It's not suited for a lightweight knit or a heavyweight denim, and it's not particularly suited for machine embroidery. Although a universal needle can be used for certain machine embroidery projects, specialty embroidery needles have a longer eye and scarf, and that supports the specialty threads that you're using for machine embroidery. They also have a light ballpoint that allows for multi-directional stitching without snagging the fabric. However, an embroidery needle isn't always the best choice for machine embroidery either. So how do we decide which needle to use when? The heavier the fabric, the larger the needle tip needs to be to penetrate the fabric fibers. Similarly, the lighter weight the fabric, the smaller the needle tip needs to be to avoid producing a hole in the fabric. At the same time, the needle eye needs to be large enough to accommodate the thickness of the thread that you're using. In general, for machine embroidery using a stable quilting cotton and 40-weight rayon thread, which is the thread that most digitizers intend for their designs, a size 80-12 embroidery or top stitch needle is suitable. If you're using a heavier weight fabric like a denim or a canvas, then a 90-14 needle is a better choice. If you're using a lighter weight fabric like a chiffon or a cotton voile, then a 75-11 embroidery needle or a 70-10 Microtex is a better choice. 40-weight rayon isn't the only thread for machine embroidery. There are other great thread types that have different qualities that result in really beautiful embroideries too. 40-weight poly deco is a strong thread choice available in lots of colors. This thread weight is interchangeable with 40-weight rayon, so the same needle you'd use with rayon is suitable for poly deco. Thicker threads provide great coverage for machine embroidery designs, particularly line art style designs like red work or quilting motifs. The lower the thread weight, the thicker it is. So if you're using a 30 weight cotton thread, for example, you'll need a larger needle. A 90-14 embroidery needle is customary depending on your fabric thickness. There are also designs digitized for even thicker threads. Designs labeled as brushed, fur, or heavy are digitized for 12-weight threads, such as 12-weight cotton or 12-weight acrylic thread like this filaine. In order for the thread to pass through the needle eye and withstand the high speed of machine embroidery, you need a size 116 needle. A jeans, titanium, or top stitch needle provides the adequate space and tip that's needed for multi-directional stitching while penetrating through all these heavy stitch areas. Another reason to not use a needle labeled embroidery for machine embroidery is when you're working with metallic threads. Original metallic, poly star, sliver, and hollow shimmer threads all need a size 90-14 needle, either labeled metal or top stitch. These needles have a slightly narrower scarf than an embroidery needle, and they just react better with the friction and the speed of machine embroidery. That being said, you still need to slow the machine speed by about half when you're embroidering with metallic threads to reduce that friction even more and eliminate thread breakage. If you experience thread breakage during embroidery, the needle size is almost always to blame. Switch the needle size or type or both until a balanced and strong stitch is achieved. Note which needle type and size that you use for your projects in a reference file to consult before your next project. This research will help you in future stitch outs so you can get to the fun of embroidery much quicker.
Yay, we're back and it worked. I'm so excited. Okay, a lot of great questions coming in. Shirley was asking, is this video available on the Sulky site? So this video, as well as 5 others, there are 6 videos in the series, are available on our YouTube channel. So if you head on over to YouTube and search Sulky, you'll find our channel. You can subscribe to it, or you can just start watching our different playlists. We have a playlist that's called Beginner Machine Embroidery, and you will find all of the videos there. So you can watch them one after another, and you can reference them for the future. So you can find them all there. So lots of great questions have come in. So let's dive in. Someone was asking, what is a Microtex needle? So a Microtex needle is a super duper sharply pointed needle. So it allows you to stitch very lightweight materials at a high speed. It's also great for simple construction, so you don't have to be stitching at high speeds, but something about the way it's manufactured resists the heat and friction that is produced by sort of high-speed embroidery. So if you have ever done embroidery with metallic thread, you know, that those high stitching speeds actually produce heat that could start affecting your metallic thread. I mean, it's not going to melt all over your project, but it will affect your stitch out, and it could cause some thread breakage because the thread is just going through so much stress and heat. So that's why with metallic thread in particular, we tell you to slow the machine down almost as far as it can go, at least by half, so that you have a better quality stitch out. So a Microtex needle is kind of like a denim needle in that the tip is very sharp, but it's available at super small sizes. So you can get like a 68 Microtex needle for something like a very lightweight chiffon, or like I said in the video, a cotton voile, batik, something like that. I would choose a Microtex needle. All right. Rose is asking, do you have a printable chart for the needle to thread info? So we do have a great needle infographic, and it really is talking about it's talking about technique or fabric to pair with your needle type, because the needle number is what is going to correspond to your thread weight. Okay. So that chart is very helpful. You can find it at sulky.com. If you're looking at the Organ Needles selections, there will be an image of that organ needle that you're looking at, and then there will be alternate images you can look at for a deeper dive into that type of needle or that product. And there you will find a printable PDF that shows you this type of needle is suitable for this type of fabric and or this type of technique. And that's a really great thing you can print out, laminate it, put it in your reference binder that I'm going to show you in a minute that I alluded to in the video there, or hang it in your sewing room so that you have a really good reference. I also recommend grabbing up assortment packs of different types of needles to have just on hand. There is really nothing worse than you've got everything lined up for your project, you thread the machine, and you're like, wait a second. First of all, what size needle is in here? And do I have the right one that I need for this particular stitch out or this particular project? So if you grab up some assortment packs, meaning they have different sizes within the same type of needle, then you have a lot more choices where not only can you switch out the right needle for the job, but you can also have some different sizes on hand to do some test stitch outs. We always recommend when you're doing a new recipe, I like to call it, meaning your fabric, stabilizer, thread, and needle combination. You're doing one you've never done before that you don't have a reference for. Always do a test stitch out. And that is where this stabilizer sampler really comes in handy. This is included in that beginner machine embroidery kit, and you will get a sheet of each one of the Sulky stabilizers. And that way, this will help you build your little reference binder, but it also gives you a lot of options. If you're doing a new recipe that you haven't stitched out before, you can try a couple of different stabilizers matched with your fabric, try out a couple of different thread types, try out a couple of different bobbin types, see what you like best, what end result gets you to where you want to be, and then you will take that sheet, put it in your reference binder, write on your little plastic sleeves what you used, what is the fabric type, what is the stabilizer type, what was the bobbin, what was the needle, what was the top thread. Then you have your reference for next time. So the great thing about this is these are sized to perfectly fit into a plastic sleeve that you can then put in your reference binder like I have here. So I showed it to you in that video, but you can see here is my, if I can get it in the frame, here's my 40 weight rayon with my 60 weight bobbin. And this is just, I used regular Kona cotton for all of my stitch out samples that I have here. On your plastic sheet, you can use a dry erase marker or even just a permanent marker and write your needle size, write your fabric type, you can write your fabric manufacturer, you can write down the project you ended up making from this. So this is a great tool to keep your test stitch outs in, to reference later. I mean, it's really invaluable. There's no sense in doing a test stitch out that you just throw away, or, I mean, I think it's great to repurpose test stitch outs into other projects, especially if they are successful test stitch outs. That's another thing to note. If you did a test stitch out and it was terrible and it was super puckery, you didn't have enough stabilizer or something like that, keep that in the reference book and say, this one didn't work and this was the recipe. That way you don't go and repeat the same mistake, right? So very, very great tool. You can easily go through and say, what kind of look do I want for this project as well? So I can now say, here is what my poly deco looks like in this design. It's going to look similar to any design you choose. Then you can say, oh, wait, maybe I want to use 30 weight cotton because it doesn't have the sheen. And, I'm making a soft baby quilt or something like that. Or maybe I want to use a Sulky blendable. And you can kind of see how the colors are completely randomized when you're using a Sulky blendable. So you don't get the same color pattern throughout your stitch out. And if you have a sample of that, you can decide, do I like that look for my project? Here is the Sulky glowy. So you can see how that stitches out. The neon. And then we get to the metallics. Super important if you're going to do a metallic embroidery to do some test stitch outs. Even if you only test out a portion of the design, if your design has a super high stitch count and you don't want to use all of that thread, or whatever the case may be, do a sample. Pick a portion of the design that has the heaviest fill, to really get a sense of, is this recipe going to work for me? So here I have Sulky hollow shimmer. Yes, you can embroider with these threads. And notice I used invisible thread in the bobbin. I know. So I'm going to go over that in just a minute. Yes, you can use invisible thread in the bobbin, especially Sulky polyester invisible thread. All right, here is the sliver example, Sulky sliver. When you stitch these out, you can really see the differences between those metallic thread types. It's kind of hard to tell when you're sifting through the numerous web pages that we have that showcase all of these threads. You got to go back and forth and say, oh, wait, what did the hollow shimmer look like? Grab a spool of each, do some test stitch outs, have your reference in front of you. You'll be able to really see the differences between these threads. And then we have the original metallic with your invisible bobbin thread. Now on this one, I have a note actually that says more stabilization is needed for this one, right? Because it was a little bit puckery around the edges. So that is my little baby, okay? This is my precious baby, and I am always adding to it. So if I do a new recipe, I have a new folder that I'm working on too. So like I said, these sheets will fit so nicely into your little binder. You'll get toppers, you'll get fusibles, you'll get tearaways, you get them all, okay? Even some of the specialty stabilizers as well. So grab yourself a sampler if you have not tried the entire Sulky line, because it will really expand your creativity. It will really give you more options. If you are like, look, I have a bolt of Tear Easy. That's what I use for embroidery. You'll be amazed at some of the new things you can do with your embroidery projects just by swapping out the stabilizer to something maybe more appropriate for your fabric and thread combination. Okay, so lots of questions coming in. Deborah is asking, what causes bobbin thread to show on the top? So that is a tension issue. And I would really consult your manual. It will probably say if bobbin thread's showing on the top, make this adjustment. If too much top thread is showing on the bottom, make this tension adjustment. I am actually terrified of adjusting the tension on my machines. I don't know what it is, but it freaks me out. I feel like I'm never going to get it back to where it was, I guess. Even though I have computerized machines and it's quite easy to go back to the factory settings. But I just, every single time I'm going to do it, I make note of everything I've done so that I can go back, I can go forward. I always consult my best friend Google and make sure I'm not messing anything up further. So, I guess that is maybe my one fear about machine embroidery is fiddling with the tension, but sometimes it is necessary, and your machine may have gotten its timing or some other mechanical stuff out of whack, and you may want to consult your machine dealer to see if you can have a service appointment, or just call them up and say, you know what, every time I do machine embroidery, I'm getting bobbin thread showing on the right side of my project. What should I do? Is there a setting? Is there a tension adjustment? And get their guidance. They're there for you. And that's why buying your machine from a reputable dealer rather than a big box store or, online, you get that support where you can call them up and say, hey, what do I do here? They pride themselves on being able to help you with a lot of those things. And so do I. But tension is really just not my cup of tea. No, that's not the right wording. It's not in my, not an expert on tension, let's just say. Okay. Thankfully, Sandra is saving me here and coming in with some great advice. She says, never change the bobbin tension. The top tension can be changed up or down. To return to the default tension, just touch the stitch choice again. This is on Viking machines. So very important. All machines are going to be different. That's also why I don't like to give a lot of advice regarding changing your tension, because the age of your machine, the brand of your machine, everything comes into play when you start talking about how do I get a balanced stitch out. I can give you all the advice in the world about the recipes for success that have worked in my experience and the experience of our Sulky educators. But everything's going to really depend on your brand and how old your machine is, what version it is, that type of thing. Does it have the most up-to-date technology where you can just say, go back to 0, or do you manually need to do that? So there are a lot of factors at play. Okay, Flo is asking which invisible thread is for bobbin use. Any pre-wounds available? So we do not offer pre-wound invisible bobbin thread. You will want to wind that yourself. And this is a great segue into my topic of bobbin thread. All right, so this is our go-to 60 weight Sulky bobbin thread. This is what I use in almost all of my machine embroidery stitch outs, unless I want the wrong side to match the right side, or if, like I said earlier, the project is going to be seen from both sides. Therefore, you would want the same color on the top as you do on the bobbin, and perhaps the same type and weight of thread on the top and bobbin. However, this is the Sulky bobbin thread that is my go-to. I'm always buying it in a king spool. In the beginner machine embroidery kit, you will get a snap spool. You can see the difference between those here. This king spool has, I think, 1,100 yards of thread on it. Snap spool is less. You could see there, it's that horizontal spool at the bottom. So you will get some bobbin thread in that kit. But, I tend to just get the king spools because I use so much of it. You can get it in white and black. You can get pre-wounds in white and black and a neutral kind of grayish, brownish, taupish color. So that is available to you as well. Now, like I said, a 60 weight bobbin thread produces the most balanced, beautiful stitch outs in my binder of tricks. So that is really my go-to. Now, Sulky Poly Light is our 60 weight thread that kind of mimics a silk thread, but it's much more affordable and, easy to work with. It's great for piecing. It's great for lighter weight fabrics because it is a 60 weight thread. Comes in a bazillion colors. So if I want a 60 weight bobbin thread, but I want the thread to match my top thread, I sometimes will use the Sulky Poly Light. Like I said also, I will sometimes just use the same thread I'm using in the top as I am in the bobbin. So it really depends on the stitch density, how many stitches that design is, if my fabric is going to support a little bit heavier weight thread on the top and bobbin, or not. If it's a very lightweight fabric, I probably am going to do a poly light in the bobbin. So keep all of those things in mind. Now, invisible thread. You probably didn't think you could use invisible thread in the bobbin. Now, I really only use this if I'm working with a metallic specialty thread. For the most part, I don't use those threads in the bobbin because not only will they affect the stitch out, but it makes the metallic thread more difficult to sew. And it gives you a little bit of a scratchy feeling on the inside of your work. And I don't want that rubbing up against the fabric fibers, causing scratchiness. The right word is not coming to me. You get the idea. So I will use an invisible thread in the bobbin. Now, these are not pre-wounds, and I'm sure there are a number of reasons for that. These are the ones that come to my mind. When you're using invisible thread in the bobbin, you want to slow down the bobbin winder so that it is not producing undue tension while it is being wound. You also want to only wind about 1/3 to 1/2 of the bobbin. So those are really the rules of thumb. I have had great stitch out quality using the metallic thread, whether it be original, hollow shimmer, sliver. All three of those work great with invisible thread in the bobbin. You can also use the 60 weight bobbin thread for those. I just found in my trial and error book that the invisible thread actually looked better. Now, if you have a little bit of bobbin thread that wants to peek out and show itself on the right side when you're working with a metallic thread, that can really kind of ruin your stitch out, even if it's 1 or 2 little stitches here and there of bobbin thread showing, because all of a sudden you have this white thread poking out in through your metallics. So if you use invisible, guess what? It's invisible. All right, so hopefully that answered some questions. Donna is saying sometimes just turning the machine off and on again can correct an odd change. That's true. If you are fiddling with tension or other machine settings, and all of a sudden you are wondering how you got here, what weird turn you took, how do you get back to where you started? A lot of the times you can just turn the machine off, turn it on again, and those settings won't save. So that's a very good point. Catherine is saying the beginner kit looks just like what I need to get started. Exactly. When you do get a new embroidery machine, Sometimes it will come with a couple of sheets of stabilizer. They may or may not be labeled as to what they are. You might get a pack of needles that have different needle types, different needle sizes, and that's pretty much it. So you go to do your very first stitch out because you're super excited and you have this brand new embroidery machine, and you don't have the threads that you need or the colors that the design is indicating. You don't have bobbin thread. You don't have maybe the right needle, and maybe you don't have the right stabilizer. Or you did a test stitch out and there went the sheet of stabilizer that they gave you when you bought the machine. So that's why we thought, let's put together a great kit. Whether you have had a machine, an embroidery machine in your closet and you just haven't used it, or you've had the machine arm and you've never put it on your machine, or you have bought a brand new embroidery machine, this is a great kit to help you on your way. And like I was saying earlier, even if you are a more advanced embroiderer, this is a great way to build your stash as well as to create that reference folder that is a great idea no matter where you are in your embroidery journey. We all need this reference folder. Mine has been invaluable at times, where I'm just like, I've never worked with this kind of fabric before, or I've never embroidered this type of fabric before. And, particularly if Sulky is launching a new thread and lucky duck me, I get to test it out, I'll have an entire book on that new thread so that I can come and share all of that knowledge with all of you and cut down on all of that testing time that really eats into our project making. So, and that's really what I'm doing here. That's why I'm here for you, is to make it so that you can dive into the project right away and you don't have to figure out the right recipe from the start. Okay. Beginner machine embroidery kit. Okay. Lots of people in the comments are coming in with advice for changing settings, advice for tension adjustments. And yes, Donna, tension can be tricky. That's why I just don't consider it my forte. There are certain things I know to do here and there based on my experience with my machine. But like I said, I just don't like really giving my 100% sign off on that advice because everyone's machine and experience is going to be different. Okay. Let's see. Deborah. So great. After watching the videos and seeing comments from all the enthusiasts here, I think I should be charging more for my embroideries because of all the knowledge one needs to produce beautiful embroideries. Isn't that the truth? We got to value our knowledge, right? It takes a lot of experience to get to the point where you know these recipes like the back of your hand, and you can create these beautiful stitch outs no matter what. So lots of people are talking about stabilizer now. Do I use a tear away? Do I use a cutaway? Do I use a heat away? Do I use a wash away? What is your recommendation? So, this is a tricky subject, and one of our machine embroidery videos goes into stabilizer a little bit. Stabilizer alone could be its own video series with multiple episodes that really dive into each type. And I promise you those will be coming down the pike. But in general, you can head on over to sulky.com. We have one of the coolest tools I've never seen. It is the Stabilizer Selector tool. And it is a great place to start when you are unsure of what stabilizer to pair with what fabric or technique. So, just like we were talking about with needles, in order to figure out what stabilizer to use, head on over there. You will put in, there's different menus you can select from. You will put in the fabric you're using, you will put in the technique you are using, and it spits out a recommendation for stabilizer based on those two things. Now, this is a recommendation. It's not going to be the be-all, end-all. Every single time I do this, I need to use this. And that is really what makes it machine embroidery a tricky little subject, because no two projects are going to be that alike. In general, though, it's a great starting point for your test stitch outs, and then you can tweak things and make adjustments to really get to the perfect stitch out in the end. I have used that stabilizer selector tool, and I find it does a really great job of starting me out on the right path. So bookmark that page at sulky.com. You can always go back to it and say, okay, I'm starting a new recipe. Where do I begin? What stabilizer do I need? So start there. And I'm going to show you here one example of why I chose a fusible cutaway for a project that I'm going to start this afternoon. Now, in the beginner kit, we included a 1-yard pack of Tear Easy and a 1-yard pack of Soft and Sheer Extra. The word extra is there because it is a fusible. There is also a Soft and Sheer, no extra, and that is not a fusible. It is just a cutaway. So keep in mind, if you want a fusible, look for that word extra. Now, the reason I have Soft and Sheer Extra fused to a piece of Kona cotton right now, you can see it is like a cream color. I want the addition of like an interfacing in this pocket that I'm going to embroider. So I chose a fusible so that I could fuse my entire pocket piece with that interfacing, but also then use it as the stabilizer for my machine embroidery. The whole sheet is going to stay with my pocket piece when the embroidery is complete. I'm not going to cut it away close to the design like I would do, let's say, for a knit t-shirt or something. I'm going to leave the whole sheet behind here. It's going to add a thread count to this nice fabric, stabilizing that pocket so that throughout usage and wear, my pocket is going to retain its nice shape after construction. If I were using a tearaway, I would tear away the stabilizer completely, leaving only stitches on the right and wrong side of my fabric. I might need an additional interfacing after that. So why not just apply it all in one? So that's one reason to use a fusible cutaway stabilizer. It's a little weird to say fusible cutaway because you're not really cutting it away, but cutaway is kind of a synonym for permanent, all right, in the embroidery world. So you have to ask yourself, do I want the stabilizer to remain with the fabric? Do I want the stabilizer to be completely removed? If you want it completely removed, you need to go with the tear away, a wash away, or a heat away. Okay. Like I said, these topics are just, there is so much information to share about all of these topics. So we will definitely continue our machine embroidery video series. You will see more of them, in the coming months, years, all types of things. We will never end our education on stabilizers because there's just so much to learn. So, okay. Dawn is asking if pre-wound bobbins fit all embroidery machines. So there are 2 different pre-wound bobbin sizes that we offer at sulky.com. And you need to check your machine manual to see which size bobbin fits your machine. Some machines, I know there's a Bernina machine that has like an extra big bobbin. You can't use a pre-wound in there. From what I know, they haven't made pre-wounds in that large size. So you need to make sure that the bobbin size is going to fit your machine before you buy up some pre-wounds. All right. Constance definitely needs a sample pack. It's so helpful to have on hand when you want to test out and see what's going to work for your project. Okay. Steve is asking, does Sulky invisible thread get stiff and brittle after being washed several times? So I have not had this problem. Sulky invisible thread is a polyester thread. I have used it in many quilts and quilts that I wash, and I have not had a problem with it feeling brittle at all. It's the only invisible thread I would recommend, and that is not just because I work for Sulky, honestly. I've used a few others. Some are like stretchy fishing line, and if you tried to use that in your bobbin, you would have a puckery mess when you are finished or after washing because of the stretchability of that thread. It's really not going to do you any favors in your sewing machine. So I have used quite a few brands, and I really recommend the Sulky polyester. You can get it in clear, you can get it in smoke. There are different, shades based on your fabric shade. If you were going to use the clear on a very dark fabric, it would catch the light. You might be able to see some of it. And really, the point of invisible thread is that it is truly invisible. So make sure to get the shade that closely goes with the fabric that you're using. Okay. Let's see. Oh, this is a great idea from Mary. She says, idea for everyone. Gift a sample pack as a gift to our sewing buddies that are new to embroidery. That is a fantastic idea. Give them a little sample pack, give them a little 3-ring binder, put some little plastic sleeves in there, and they are on their way to making their little reference idea. So that's great. Okay, Elaine uses a binder and adds instructions and a design CD if applicable. So that's really great. And Brandon is saying, started digitizing my own designs now, and having a reference for all of it helps so much. Yes, it is helpful for so many different things. Pam is asking, if you're using invisible threads in the bobbin, should you turn off the thread cutter? That's an interesting question. I did not, or have not, and I haven't experienced a problem with that. But I'm going to try it now and see if turning it off does anything to affect the quality of the stitch out. So thank you for that. If anyone has, please put in the comments your recommendations, and I would appreciate that. Faye is asking, does your website list threads that can be used for machine embroidery? So almost every thread can be used for machine embroidery. Things to note are, when you're choosing a design, it is almost always the digitizer's intention that you are using a 40 weight embroidery thread, whether that is rayon or polyester. So you need to look in the description of the design or consult the thread chart that you can sometimes look at prior to purchasing the design and see what thread is recommended by the digitizer. If you deviate from that thread type or thread weight, your stitch out's going to look different than you want it to. Digitizing is a tricky thing, right? So if you have, let's say, a circle area that is filled with stitches, if the design's digitized for 40 weight, you will need a certain number of stitches to fill that design area. If you use a heavier weight thread, like a 30 weight cotton, you need less stitches to fill that area. So you might have areas where the thread looks like it has stitched over itself, or it's pushing the fabric underneath and creating some puckers because there is not enough room in that area to accommodate the thickness of the thread. So if you're going to swap out thread weights and thread types, keep that in mind. You probably don't want to choose a design with a lot of filled areas if you're going with a heavier weight thread because of the problem I just described. But if you have chosen a design that is a bunch of straight stitches, like a quilting motif or an outline design, a redwork design, let's say, it might just work fine because you are not filling an area with stitches and the area does not need to accommodate a thicker thread. So you can use lots of different types of thread. You just need to understand what's going to work with the design that you've chosen and with the fabric that you've chosen. For example, if you want a beautiful design on faux leather and it has a bunch of fill stitch areas, well, faux leather doesn't really have a weave to it. So there is not a lot of extra area to accommodate a bunch of thread within the faux leather fibers, we'll say. So what's going to happen is the needle is actually going to push those faux leather fibers or material aside to make room for a stitch or to make room for that thread. So when you unhoop your project, all of a sudden there's buckling, the fabric has stretched, and you're like, I don't understand, I hooped this perfectly. Well, it's stretching because there was no room for the thread in that fabric. So all of these things you need to think about when you're coming up with the right recipe for your project. Okay. Carolyn says, I prefer to leave my tension alone. This is like the tension debate in the comments. I love it. A lot of you came to my rescue about the tension. Debbie's asking, how do you change the bobbin winding speed? So this is another question that is really machine specific, depending on your machine brand. So a lot of people control the bobbin winding speed by their foot, right? Your foot pedal. So you will just need to ease up on that foot pedal while you're winding your bobbin. Other machines kind of wind it with the touch of a button. That's what my machine does. And there's actually a speed, there's like a speedometer kind of that you would just indicate that you want a slower speed for your bobbin winding. So all machine brands are going to be different. Consult your machine manual and see if there are bobbin settings. If there are not, I really recommend you either reach out to your machine dealer and say, how do I do this? Or go online to the machine manufacturer, and there might be references for that already exist even. So reach out to your specific machine brand, and I'm sure you'll get an answer to that question that is specific to your machine. Okay. Deborah says, I think the biggest issue with threads is figuring out the needles and tensions needed for project. Exactly. That's why I wanted to show you that video on choosing the right needle for the job, because it is something that people get hung up on a lot. You might need a small needle because your fabric's very lightweight, but you need a large needle eye because your thread weight is too large for a little small needle eye. So in that case, you might want a Microtex in a 80-12 or 90-14. And that way you have a really slim, sharp point, but a needle eye that's large enough to accommodate the thread. So, all right. Betsy is coming in with the greatest segue ever. She says, I love your boho Bonnie bag behind you. Gorgeous embroidery. So let's talk about that to finish today's So What. This is our Boho Bonnie bag video cast. Yay. So this video cast is happening March 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And I will be going over this brand new bag by Sally Tomato. And you can only get it here, folks, for this video cast. And we collaborated with our good friends at Sally Tomato to bring you this go-to tote bag that is large enough to fit all of your essentials, but beautiful enough to really dress up and, I mean, gorgeous. Only cracks the surface of how to describe this bag. So, excuse me one moment. As you can see, there is embroidery on this bag. It is made out of high quality canvas. It is made with high quality cork fabric for the straps and base. There are exterior zippers. There's an interior zipper. There's another interior pocket. There's a lot going on. High-end hardware. There's purse feet. A bag like this, you know, you don't want that bottom cork touching the surface of anything, so that purse feet's really going to protect it. And it has a fleece interlining. There's so much going on. There are lots of things that you will learn during this video cast. And regarding that embroidery, there are different options. You can add embroidery to that upper edge that is pictured here on the bag. You can add embroidery to the pocket area, that exterior pocket. And you can do the embroidery by machine or hand embroidery. We will be going over the two versions so that anybody with any machine capability can make this bag and embellish it. So here is a picture of that machine embroidery in progress. And for those of you wondering, 30 weight cotton thread is used for the embroidery. So these designs, very large scale, high stitch count designs on that beautiful high quality canvas fabric, we are using 30 weight cotton embroidery thread so that it has this sort of boho vintagey vibe, really soft look to the embroidery, and it looks hand done even though your machine's doing all that work for you. You can also do the embroidery by hand. And I will be going over some basic handwork stitches, how to use Sulky 12-weight cotton petites for hand embroidery, and it's gonna be a great time. So I'll show you both of my, let's get my little ladder over here closer. I'll show you both of my finished bags. So the kit that we're offering, for those of you who signed up early for the video cast when I first started talking about it, which might have been last week. A lot of you signed up early, which is great. You need to reserve your spot. The kit was not available for ordering yet. So we now have the kit up for pre-sale. So you can reserve the type of kit you want, whether that's machine embroidery or hand embroidery, and the color of cork that you want. This one is the Magnolia cork. It's this kind of really earthy green. And we also have one called Coneflower, and that is the sort of purpley burgundy-ish version. So this is the one that I did hand embroidery work on the exterior pocket. And I also did decorative coordinating thread for all of my top stitching details. On the green one, or the Magnolia one, I chose a matching polydeco thread for all the top stitching so that it kind of blended into the cork fabric. So we will be going over tons of customization ideas for this bag because, I mean, with everything you get, you'll be able to really make this bag your own. And I really have to show you this because it looks like it was very complicated to do, but I'm going to give you some hacks for how to line up your embroidery design absolutely perfectly every single time for this bag. I'm just so proud of how that turned out. And yes, the other side looks that good too. So I'm going to show you how that's done, how you can perfectly place your designs so that they match up along your seam line without having to do 40 million test stitch outs. So with purchase of your video cast, it's only $5.99 to attend the video cast. You'll be getting 90 minutes of instruction, and you also get all the embroidery design files that you need for this Boho Florals collection that we created for this video cast. You will get the hand embroidery versions and the machine embroidery versions of these designs. They retail together for $24.98 for the designs alone because, like I said, super large scale designs with heavy stitch counts results in just lot of stitches. So you will get the design collections for free for only $5.99 when you join the video cast or register for the video cast. So, that's worth it alone. We also partnered with the American Sewing Guild for this video cast event. So they will be there as well. And we will, you'll kind of learn a little bit about the American Sewing Guild and about the fun things that they are going to do this year virtually. And, American Sewing Guild is such a great organization. Give me a thumbs up if you are part of an American Sewing Guild chapter. But really great organization, like I said. And, you join based on your city or state. So it's a great network of friends to have, of sewing buddies that you can bounce things off of and share projects and all that kind of thing. So I hope you will all join the Boho Bonnie Bag video cast, March 9th, 2 p.m. Where can I buy the kit? It is at sulky.com. I forgot to link to the video cast in the description of today's post. I linked to just about everything else that I talked about today. So if you don't see it in the top of the post, or description rather, hit the little see more button and the whole post will populate. I'm losing it. And you'll find links to everything I talked about except for what I forgot, which is our video cast. So to join the video cast, you will head over to our education platform, which is a different website from sulky.com. The website is sewingonline.sulky.com. While you are there, you can find the Boho Bonnie Bag videocast. That is the one you will want to sign up for. That's happening March 9th. And there are links to the kit. There's all the information that you need for what you're signing up for, what you will learn, what you get for your $5.99, what to expect the day of the videocast. If you cannot join us live, it is all available to you on demand after the fact. So if you can only join that evening, go ahead and register for the videocast. All the materials, the full video, the 90 minutes of instruction, the freebies, all of it will be available to you on demand. So, and that goes for everybody, whether you attended live or not. It's always in your library on our education platform. So that's really great. You can access it at any time. You don't have to download all the files, save them to your computer. Then you forgot where you put them and oh no, what do? You go back to your library on the education platform and you grab them again. So that is super convenient little repository for all the information that you need for each one of our videocasts, webcasts, and our legacy webinars. So if you missed any of our webinars from the past few years, you can access them through that education platform as well. All right. So the kit is at sulky.com. Again, different site from the education platform. I know it's confusing, but in order to bring you that education platform with all those bells and whistles, it had to be its own thing. So the kit is at sulky.com. And like I said, they are pre-orders. So you will be reserving the type and color of kit that you want. And they will ship out probably the week of the webcast. So just keep in mind, you do not need the kit on hand for the video cast. It is not meant to be a sew along. So you don't have to have all of your pieces ready to sew. There's no way we could sew this bag in 90 minutes. So you can sit back, grab a cup of coffee, watch the video cast, participate in the live chat, ask your questions, take some notes, and then if your kit hasn't arrived yet, you can refer to everything later. If you want to, you can say, oh, I remember this part. I'm going to fast forward to that, watch it again, give myself a little review, and keep going. All right. Ursula says, so 30 weight embroidery thread on the machine, what hand thread is used? So for the hand work, this is why the type of kit differs. So if you get a machine embroidery kit, you're going to get Sulky Stiffy Embroidery Stabilizer, and you're going to get the snap spools of Sulky 30 weight cotton thread. You don't need a whole king spool to do this embroidery, so we were able to offer you the little bit smaller spools so that you can have all the colors that you need for the design stitch out. If you grab the hand embroidery Bonnie bag kit, you will be getting the Sulky 12 weight cotton petites. So those are even heavier weight, and it's easier to work with when you are doing handwork. You'll also get Sulky stick and stitch stabilizer instead of the stiffy. So that's why you need to decipher, or you need to choose the correct type of kit, whether that's a hand embroidery kit or a machine embroidery kit. Then you also need to make sure you have chosen the right color that you want. So either that pretty green or the burgundy sort of purplish color. Okay. Betsy's asking what size hoop is required for the Bonnie bag embroidery. So for the large design that I have put here on the upper edge, you do need a large hoop. You need at least I believe it was a 6x10. So if you have something larger than a 6x10, you could use that as well. But nothing smaller than a 6x10. Now, if you want to use a smaller hoop, you can do the pocket embroidery instead, which is this size. This one fits a 5x7 hoop, and I will be giving some tips if you want to reduce the design size if you only have a 4x4. Now, if you only have a 4x4, you might want to put the design up here instead of down here so that it fills the space better. So I don't want to give away all my secrets. I want you to attend the video cast, but just keep in mind, if you do only have a very small hoop, there will be some options. There's also some options for breaking up that large design into multiple hoopings, and then we really get into the thick of things, and you're going to learn lots of great stuff. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, Faye says, is the class good for someone who has never made a bag or sewn with cork? Yes, it is. If you have never made a bag, you are going to love the Sally Tomato patterns. The reason that we partner with Sally Tomato so often when we are doing bags, I mean, they're pretty much our exclusive bag partner at this point, is because the way that they write their patterns is very logical, very intuitive, and very clear, concise instructions. And I have never had a problem creating any of their bags. They always turn out professionally done. And we worked with them for this design style for this bag. It was a true partnership coming up with this. And they did all the heavy lifting for creating the pattern and coming up with the really ingenious ways to construct it. There are all finished seams. You turn the entire bag right side out through the interior zippered pocket. So the only seam you have to worry about closing up when your bag is complete is that lower edge pocket seam that gets stuffed into the bag that no one is ever going to see. So it's just so smart. And if you are new to bag making, you will be converted to Sally Tomato bags for sure. You're going to just love how it's constructed. And all the little special things we added to this bag to elevate it to designer status. There is a heavy duty magnetic snap And I mean, this is keeping your whole bag closed. There are faux metal zippers. Here's that interior pocket I was talking about. There's a slip pocket. You could fit a tablet in there if you choose. Like I said, there's great interlining and interfacing behind those zippers. The exterior pockets have a nice faux metal zipper with the little cork accents. There's just so many things. And here's your great purse feet, like I was mentioning. I'll be talking about how to install all of those things to take your bag to super designer status. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of these tote bags that retail for upwards of $300. You're going to be able to make your own, personalize it however you like. The beige canvas is a nice neutral color that's going to go with, you know, so many different cork colors, as well as different embroideries, different ways to embellish or top stitch. So there's a lot to talk about for the video cast, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Okay, and lots of people have lots more questions regarding the Boho Bonnie bag, and we are going to have an entire So What devoted to it on March 9th before the video cast begins. So head on over to sewingonline.sulky.com and you will be able to register for the Boho Bonnie bag. And we will be going into more detail over the next couple of weeks about it. So I'm going to tell you lots more during the next few So What's as well. And if you have questions that I have not addressed today, please feel free to email us at info@sulky.com. We try to get to all the questions in the chat, and it's absolutely impossible to keep up with. So if you didn't get your question answered, I will come back into the chat and try to answer them here, but you can always reach out to us again at info@sulky.com. So, one last question that we have got to address. If you have never embroidered, is this bag too much to tackle? I am really going to break this down so that anyone who wants to try the embroidery will feel confident in doing so. There are, you need your recipe for success, and I have mastered this one in all of my test stitch outs and creating the course. So I truly believe if you are a beginner, you will be able to embroider this successfully. You will have all of the materials that you need if you buy the kit. Everything will be on hand, and I truly believe you will be able to tackle it with confidence, and you will love the finished result. All right, so we've got a link in the bottom of the comments to sign up directly to the video cast. Thank you so much. And I will see you all there on March 9th, but I will also see you next week for another So What. Hopefully we will not get interrupted. We will not have to have multiple So What posts. Again, if you are liking, commenting, sharing, or otherwise engaging with the post today, you are eligible for our giftie, which is our brand new beginner machine embroidery kit, including everything I'm picturing here, that stabilizer sampler that you all need to create your reference binders, some needles, 6 Sulky rayon threads, the Bobbin thread, the Tear Easy, the Soft and Sheer Extra, so you will be on your way to creating beautiful embroidered projects. So thank you all for joining me today, and I will see you next time.